Before we jumping into adding the grass, what I want to do is add a little bit more functionality to our material. So I'm going to open my material instance here, and we can see the first thing I want to organize is make sure that this has proper group selection. Right now it's set global scale parameter values. It's just like blend bias doesn't really tell me anything. So I want to make sure that this has some sort of organization. The second thing that I want to do is make sure that we have some kind of control for one, change the textures if you want. Two, do some color changes in the textures. Three, if you want to change contrast or desaturate the textures, so we can also have that control available for us. So let's do that. And I'm going to approach a little bit different how we're going to approach this. That sounded so weird. Approach how we're going to approach. But essentially what I meant is all this stuff is here, very close to the main block of my material. I don't usually like to do that. So what I want to do is going to sound really counterintuitive, but bear with me for a second. I'm going to move this away. Okay? I'm going to move away and I'm going to give a space between these two things. What I'm trying to do is I'm going to isolate all the operations related to the textures to the sides and then just have something connected here. And that's a pretty cool neat trick. So check this out. I'm going to start with the grass. I'm going to pull from here and I'm going to type named reroute. And you're going to see this as a utility node and say add name reroute declaration node. Click it. It's going to ask me for a name. And luckily for me, it already gave me the correct color, which is green. So the grass is green, the node is green. That's perfect. So what does this do is like I'm not going to really push from here because that defeats the purpose. But when I'm here, I can just pull from any one of this. In this case, I need to pull from B and say name reroute grass. So just like that, I really made my graph super tight. I'm going to do the same thing with the dirt. Named reroute. And you're looking for the utility, don't select the one that is already created, and just say dirt. And what I'm going to do with this one, I'm just going to give a color that resembles it. Just color pick there, dirt, boom, save. Make sure that you are connecting this to the other side. Push from here. First option, name reroute, dirt. If I did everything correctly, it should look the same, but the graph here is a little bit easier and more manageable to read. This is a matter of preference. I really like when I see people doing this. I really like to work this way. I think it's easier for the eye too. What it also allows to me is the idea that everything from the left of this node, I can change anything that I want. And I'm going to be able to just save it, update it. I don't need to be moving nodes around here anymore, which saves a lot of space for me. And it's just like less trouble. If I want to make any updates to the graphic, which we're going to be doing eventually, it's going to be easier to position stuff around. So, like I said, I want to have a control to change contrast. So the first thing that I want to do, again, counterintuitive, I'm going to disconnect this cable. From RGB, I'm going to pull and I'm going to look for contrast. Usually, the nodes are very self-explanatory. So if you are used to working with node-based shading in other softwares, chances are the names are going to be very similar, if not the same. So I want to change the contrast. There are two ways to do it here. Cheap contrast is just one single vector of information. So if you want to change the contrast to just one channel, and then you have cheap contrast RGB. That's the one that I want. Click it. You see that it's connected to a V3, a three vector information RGB. And then I have a scalar, which is the name of this. If you press S and click, essentially create a version of this. There is a parameter already. That's a scalar, one single vector. And if you V3, which is V in the hotkey, you can have the parameter version of this. Okay, so S and V, 1, 2, 3, 4. I know it's too much information, but keep doing it, you're gonna get it. And right now I have the RGB connected and I have the contrast that I need to expose. You can either just go S, click and say grass contrast, or my favorite, right click, promote to parameter. And then you just say grass contrast. I like to name everything what the texture is and what it's doing after. So I'm actually going to go here to my UV tile. I'm going to change grass UV tile. Okay. So with this, if I hover, this says that the full value is 0. So I should be seeing no difference. I can also just right click promote to parameter, or sorry, not promote to parameter, it's preview that node. And if I change back my tiling to 1, just so you can see, I'm seeing right now what this node, everything that comes from the left of this node is operating on. So I can just go to my scalar value contrast here, and if I play with that value, I can start seeing what is happening. So lower contrast, higher contrast. You can see that the values are so minimal that we can even do this. We can just put a range. The minimum that this can go is minus 0.1. The highest this can go is 0.1. So when I'm moving this thing, in my instance, here I'm going to be able to go over. It's just going to limit to that number. Okay? So you won't be able to see this in effect here, but if you save it, go back here, push your material instance. Right there, you see the grass contrast, and you can see this go from 0.1 to minus 0.1. And you can use that to very quickly change the color of your landscape. Maybe you want it to be a little bit more vibrant green like this. So now we're going to do the same thing. So Control C, Control V to our sand. And in this case, it's dirt. I keep saying sand, but it's dirt. Dirt, UV tile. Maybe you should have named sand. And again, you can promote parameter. Oops, I didn't click properly. I'm pretty sure you need to click. Yep, it's not working, so whatever. So dirt, contrast. It's good that you see me doing some of these mistakes. By default, needs to be 0. And what we established before is go from minus 0.1 to 0.1. Connect there. Save it. Go back to our world. Take a look in our instance. And if I enable dirt contrast, I can see that in action right there. Really, really cool. Honestly, I like the high contrast version. I don't know if it's going to look good when we put the foliage, but it looks interesting. By the way, if you uncheck the checkbox, whatever settings you have here, go back to the default thing. So you don't even need to worry about it. Awesome. I'm going to save. I'm going to go back to my material. So what else can we add to this material? Might be interesting. Maybe I'm going to right click stop review node so I can see back the material. Maybe this is an alien planet and you want to change the color of the grass. Like if you're playing Dragon Ball, the map is all blue grass, maybe you want to do that. So how can we do it? There's several ways to do it. The easiest is to right click and look for something called hue shift. And hue shift, you guess it, works the same way as a Photoshop node. So you just need to connect your texture here, which in this case is this, because we're doing texture operations here. If I hover it, it tells me that the full value is 0. So I can just promote parameter. And we can just call grass hue underscore hue. And the way that this node works, it goes from 0 to 1. So you can just put slider max 1. After 1, if you go to 2, it's essentially just repeating the same it's going a full round around the color wheel. So save it. I already know that that's what I want for the other one too. So I'm going to do the same thing. Hue shift, Ctrl C, Ctrl V. Ctrl click and drag to reposition. And if you're going to copy this thing here, you're just going to rename this to dirt. And I hope that by now you start seeing the reason why this handy node is there. So I'm doing all the operations, but I don't need to worry about space, about moving and rearrange stuff here, because I'm just connecting to the output to that node. So I can just do all the things that I need to do, save it, and it's just an easy way to organize your system. So if I go here and I pull back my material instance, I'm going to put the material instance in the other monitor instead of being pushing all the time, but I can just enable grass hue, dirt hue, and look at that. The dirt now is green and the grass is blue. And we are in a Mekuzei right now. Isn't that cool? So I'm going to continue to make changes after. Just going to click the tiny arrow to go back to the full values and uncheck. So go back to my material, put this on the side for now. What else can we do? Well, sometimes you would like to do something that is a tint. So it's kind of like hue, but maybe you want to multiply by a specific color. So that's something that you can do. But I think for what we want, to be honest, this is good enough. There's so many other controls to change color and to change variation. You can always combine stuff on top. But again, it's a little bit over the scope of this course. The only thing that's left for us to do is one, organize our parameters, and two, make sure that we can replace the textures. By the way, you can see a visualization how the instance is going to look like by clicking this parameter view here. This is how the node is going to look like. It's going to be very important for us in a second, but for now, let's go back to details. And what I want to do is select the texture, right click, convert to parameter. I'm going to give a name t underscore dirt. I'm going to do the same thing to the grass. Right click, convert to parameter, t underscore grass. If I save this right now, and I go back to my world, and I open my instance, you're going to see that I have two new slots. And if I enable them, I can change the whole look of the landscape. So right now, instead of dirt, the whole landscape is a Fab logo. And that's very powerful because maybe you have more than one landscapes in your scene, or maybe you just want to experiment with different textures and see how they look like. Actually, that looks pretty cool. Looks like a golf course in some ways. Maybe you want something very colorful. Not bad. Go back to the phone. So this allows you a level of customization additional to just changing colors or changing UV space. So let's go back to our material. Now that we are solid with this, okay, I want to make sure if I go to parameters that this is grouped in a way that makes sense to me. So what I want to do is make sure that at least what is related to this stays grouped. I'm going to group in two ways. First, I'm going to group here in the material graph. I'm going to select all the nodes. I'm going to press C, and that's a comment. And I'm going to say dirt texture. Just to drive home, I'm going to select the color of the dirt. I'm going to select the whole grass, press C in my keyboard, and you're going to say grass texture. And the same thing, I'm going to change that to some tone of green. And this is just visual, okay? Because if I scroll out my mouse click, I can say, oh, green is grass, brown is dirt. So it's an easier way to find it. The second level of organization, I wanted to organize my material instance, right? Right now, everything is just a weird group. Everything is just there. And even though there is some ordering that is happening because of the alphabet order, so it's always going to be alphabet order in this. So let's mean A comes first, then B comes after, that kind of stuff. It's still not perfect. I can do so much more. So what I'm going to do is just go to each one of these nodes, for example, the grass hue, and you're going to notice that there's a camp here called group. I'm going to select it, and you can see there's nothing there. So in order to create a new group, it's pretty straightforward. You just go here and say 01 grass, or just name grass. I like to put 01, and then this is going to be 02. There's another text going to be 03, so I can organize that way. Now that this group is created, I can just select every other parameter and just put inside that group. This way, when I see my parameter list again, everything is inside grass. And I'm going to do the same thing for this. Inside dirt, I'm going to say 02, dirt. Dirt contrast, put that stuff in dirt. Dirt texture, put that stuff in dirt. Dirt UV tile, dirt. If I save it, and I go back to my world, and I see my material instance right here, look at that. Absolutely amazing. It's grouped and neat. I don't need to be worried anymore about finding the correct control. There's only one more thing that we need to do, and that's the blend bias. At this point, we only have two things that we're blending, okay? We're blending the grass, and we're blending with the dirt. What I can do, to be honest with you, is add another layer. Just for the sake of this, I'm going to add a stone layer. So it's going to be grass, dirt, and stone is a very, very steep angle in my shader, okay? My material. So I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to select everything, Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V. I don't even need to worry because I'm just going to reuse the same nodes anyway. So I'm going to go to dirt here. I'm going to say stone, texture, change that to some light gray. Instead of dirt UV tile, I'm going to say stone. Instead of T dirt, it's going to be T stone. And again, T stands for texture, stone contrast. All the other values are pretty straightforward for me. I don't really care. And notice, because I duplicated, the name reroute changed for dirt_1. So this way I can just change to stone, and that's good enough. You essentially created a duplication. It's not using the same one. So that's essentially what I wanted. Just needed to rename it. Now that I have that selected, let's change the texture for something that looks somewhat different. I'm going to pick something at random here, to be honest with you. I just want something gray. I might need to provide you with a texture. Let's see if I have something here. Not really. So I'm going to show to you something. If I go to Windows, I have a selection of free textures online, and I'm going to use a concrete texture. And the easiest way to import into your engine is to just click on the texture and drag into the engine. And just like that, you have a texture to use. So that's pretty straightforward. So what I'm going to do is make sure that with that texture selected in my content drawer, so I can just select it, even though it's not saved. Every time I have something here and I press this arrow, I'm just going to push the selection. So now I have a really rough stone texture there. And I can just start using this in my graph. So let's go here to the sides. And what I want to do is, where it says blend bias, I'm going to rename this to grass bias. Okay, it's going to make sense in a second. I'm going to create another lerp and another one of these two. I might have to change the order. We'll figure it out in a second. Let's just do this first. And I'm going to say this goes here, this goes here. And then from here, I want stone. Which truly caused a huge problem for me. Because right now, I want the grass to be always the one on top. So I'm going to have to rearrange the order of everything. And that's another reason why using these nodes is amazing, because I don't need to move all these around. I can just move one node that represents all that stuff. So I'm going to say stone goes in the very bottom. It's just kind of like playing with layers, right? Layers of sediment and stuff. Grass goes in the very top, which means goes in B. Which means stone should go in A and dirt should go in B. There you go. Ooh, that looks green and blue at the same time. So what I need to do now is change the name. This is not grass bias anymore. This is stone or dirt bias. You pick the one that you want. So I'm going to play with that number. There you go. We're going to change this anyway. So I'm going to save it. And just like that, we added a whole new layer. Notice the bias is a different name. One is for the grass, the other one's for the dirt. And that's the order that we set this up. So I'm going to save it. Go back to my world. Open my instance, okay? And make sure that I'm playing with those values there. Dirt and grass bias. So let's go a little bit down. And I'm going to have to push this around. There you go. So now when the angle of that stuff is too steep, it becomes rock. And then the remaining is grass. And then the transition phase is the dirt. I don't think that blue is working for us. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back here because I see I don't have a stone. And the reason for that is, even though I have a new group, I still think I have that stuff in dirt, which was exactly the case. So 0t stone, put that stuff into the stone group. There you go, save it. And if I go to my instance, I have the stone there. And what I want to do before we proceed, I'm going to go back really quick to my material. And I'm going to group these two in the groups that I'm going to call 0. Whoops. 0 underscore. Let's call slope. And I can group them together. Save it. And just like that, you can see them here. Actually, I think if I need to put a 0, 0, to be honest with you. Maybe. I want that to show before grass, and that's the case. Yeah, I need to put 0, 0. The reason for that is because I had 0, 1. Let me save this. Let me also open the material again. Make sure that changed. Oop, it did not. Did it not save? There you go. Now it went. I haven't saved it. So that way it has like a progression, right? You have the slope control and then you have your textures right after. So I'm going to open here. I'm going to play with this a little bit. Smudge grass, I think it makes sense. Then I'm going to go to my stone. And actually I'm going to try to play with the hue. Not very lucky, but you know what I can do? I can just go here to my contrast and decrease it. Maybe. Yeah. Let's change the tiling. Maybe a different tile, 0.01, 0.05. Maybe something like this makes a little bit more sense. What's bothering right now is that it's so harsh, and you guess it, the reason why it's hard is the transition phase is because we're having this value, blend sharpness, 100% both. So we're going to change this to convert to parameter, grass, sharp, or blend sharp, whatever you prefer. Convert this to parameter, dirt, sharp. The thing is, when we play with these values, that's why it's important that we do that in the instance. We're going to have to compensate back for all the other values, which is very annoying. Oops, I forgot to add that to the proper group. Slope, slope. Okay, save it. Let's go back. And here, look at this. I'm going to go all the way to slope, and I'm going to start changing the sharpness of the dirt. I'm going to reduce it. And as I reduce, you see it flooded the whole thing. And that's unfortunately by design, which means you're going to compensate here by pushing to the positive values. So now instead of a very harsh transition, it's almost like a smooth transition between one and the other. And if you want, you can do the same thing for the grass too. You can just go here 10. You're going to have to push this up, and you have a little bit more of a smooth transition. I happen to prefer this, so I'm just going to leave like that. But for the stone, it was so blue that I think like this looks a little bit better. You can kind of see two different textures. Well, maybe it's too much. Say tuggy. Let's try and error, folks. Try and error. There you go. It looks interesting. It doesn't offend me as much. Of course, maybe you have different textures. I'm going to provide these ones in the project. I'm actually going to add another one here that I'm pulling. It's essentially the same texture, but brown. Pull it there. Oops, remove my hue. Remove my contrast. That actually looks better. It doesn't look as bad. Could be better with a little bit more love, definitely. So I'm going to go here to my contrast. Yeah. It's good enough. We can always blur a little bit more the transition, but I think for now, this is working. So now that we have this, Ctrl-Shift-S to save. It's very important so you don't lose your work. If I go back to my material, this is how it's looking like. Pretty cool. We have a base setup of a auto slope material or auto landscape material. If you Google that, you're going to find a lot of tutorials about that. So this is the basis of it, okay? And we can continue to add more controls here. But for now, what I want to do is everywhere there is grass, right? Everywhere there's a grass, which would be this alpha here. I want to make sure that there is an actual grass in it. And that's what we're going to be doing next one.